Presentation. And thank you again, Britta, for being us together with us today. And I believe your insights will shape our community in terms of thinking circularity in fashion and in general, deep diving into the fashion design and the fashion industry. Just want to give you the floor.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled that you invited me, and your program sounds great, and I'm happy to share the knowledge that I have. So, thank you for attending and inviting me. And I look forward to sharing and talking. We can talk. Please ask questions, put them in the chat. I love it being a conversation rather than me just showing slides. So I'd love to hear your questions as we go. And Khan, I know you'll throw in some things too. So
By the way,
do you
we had
want?
a question on chat. Like we
Okay.
missed Fatih 30. Can we travel back to now? Or is just one time thing?
Ah.
Oh,
No, you're stuck there forever.
most probably.
If you go back, you
Yes.
have to stay.
Just live there and another cycle you will have most probably.
Yeah, a little bit about me. Excuse me. So, I am a graduate of the Fashion Institute of Technology, which is based in New York. I'm originally from a pretty small town in the Midwest, so going to New York was a very big, scary deal for me. But I graduated from there in apparel, textiles, and fashion design. And I knew that if I wanted to be a designer and get a job, I was going to have to stay in New York. Like that was the place to be. So that's what I did. And I worked in the New York City garment industry for 15 years, did products from major mass market and then to designer level. And then I moved to more of the athletic apparel. And that happened when I relocated to Portland, Oregon. So if you're familiar with the West Coast, and if you've heard of, I know you've heard of Nike, but Nike is based here. So I actually moved out here to work in the athletic industry. A company called Perry Ellis, who owned Janssen, which is the oldest swimwear brand in the world, actually, and then also Nike. So I ended up working at Nike for about 8 years, which was, I would say, the highlight of my career. It was absolutely amazing. And I got to work with the advanced innovation team and work with athletes. And so it was a really wonderful time and great learning experience for me. So after I did that for a while, I've always had this thing to be an entrepreneur. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to have my own business. And so even after working at Nike and loving that job, I still had this itch to start my own business. And so I did have my own swimwear line for a little while. But then I met my co-founder. She was 20 years at Nike, and together we opened Creative Capital Design, which was women-owned design consulting agency. And we specialized in strategy, design, and development. So, and that was great. And we did products from outdoor gear to drink cups to yoga bras, all kinds. It was pretty broad range of product. In 2017, I launched Inside Fashion Design, which is an online platform. And that was kind of my side gig and my passion project. I really liked writing. I liked photography. I love doing like mood boards and all of that stuff. So I created a website where I could put all those things. And COVID happened. So I was still at Creative Capital Design Studio, but I was doing Inside Fashion Design on the side. When COVID hit, we shut down the studio. We still were working remotely, and there's still some projects, but it greatly reduced our business and our clients because everyone stopped production. Nobody was proceeding with any product. And so, blessing in disguise, that gave me much more time to work on inside fashion design. So, since then, that's now my main focus. And I do things like this where I work with students, mentor, still do some design consulting. I have tons of stuff online. I do live streaming interview sessions with industry pros and things like that. So that's what I'm doing now. And I just absolutely love it. And, so that's kind of me in
Amazing.
the last 30 years.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have an academy, eh? You have an academy, like you are giving actually like literally delivering
Yeah.
some.
Yep. So what has kind of evolved is that I've met so many industry experts, and I started inviting them to come onto my platform to share. We're turning those into classes now. So now I'm building the Conscious Fashion Design Academy under inside fashion
Is it
design.
is
A
it in
lot
a
of
national like is it in US only like or you have
no,
also like
it's
people from
virtual.
Berlin? It's
Yeah, it's
virtual.
virtual. So it's going to be, we have some on the platform now, but it's basically you buy a course of whatever topic you want. So we're looking at design and development processes. We're looking at working with ethical makers. What we just did this past weekend was an AI boot camp. It was Saturday and Sunday for several hours. So that was like a big package kind of program that we did, and every session was led by a different expert in a different area of AI. So,
Amazing.
and all virtual, so anyone can attend. And we're just going to keep building and adding classes as we see, as I meet someone who's an expert. Or so I'm certainly not the expert in all these things, but I'm coordinating all of this so that two
It's
big
amazing.
things that I really envision
Yeah.
is building community so that people can come together, and then getting education in front accessible for everyone. You know, no matter where you live, if you're in Turkey and you want to learn about some AI program that it's specific to fashion, maybe I want to offer that opportunity, and so it's accessible to everyone. So
It might be
yeah,
very like interesting for the for Turkey and Turkish market actually. Like we count ourselves as the hub for the textile hub for the EU, or I don't know, like for the other, like for this region at least.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I would love to
let's see.
travel back and go visit some of the textile places in Turkey.
Travel
You know,
back to 1997
yeah,
or
yeah. But I'll do it over again. Yeah, and if I talk too much, just we got to keep
no,
moving.
no,
Just
no,
tell
no.
me to like move on.
Let's move on with the
Yeah,
slides.
so let's get into the presentation. So today we're going to talk about sustainable fashion design strategies and embedding circularity into the entire process. And then we'll look at some of the tools and resources that AI can help within the fashion cycle. So the old way of producing product is really you design, you develop, it goes to production. They were selling product before they even knew what the orders were. So you're creating mass inventory. Then it's distributed to a warehouse or to wherever you're selling it. And then you try to sell it to the market. And some is bought, some is not. If it's not bought, it's incinerated or who knows where it goes. And so at the end, you
It's in
don't like,
all the industries, maybe. I'm not very sure, but it's in all industries. There is like a massive production just for
yeah,
the inventory, and then
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then, so what happens at the end of that product? Like you get tired of it, you might donate it thinking it's going to go to a good cause for people, but we really don't know. Is it going to end up in a landfill? Is it going to get incinerated? Does it just go into earth and, sit there in the soil for 200 years? We don't know.
We
So
don't know.
then what?
One of my professor on econometrics, she was saying like, what I know is really I don't know. Like that was like we don't
Yeah.
know. This is the one of the thing I always repeat to myself.
So I'll just tell a really brief story is when I was working in mass market, when I was just starting in the industry, my boss had sent me to Asia. And I spent several weeks. I spent weeks and weeks and weeks in Taiwan and Korea. And I would go to the factory who was printing our fabric, and which was amazing to see. It's like you take your artwork and you see it going on the rollers and getting printed, and it's so exciting. But what I remember is the workers in that print factory. First of all, they were just wearing like flip-flop slippers, like sandals, and they're standing in dyed water, and it's all around their feet, and then the water is running down the street. The dye of the print. So all of this dyed toxic water was running down the street into a river. I had no idea that
I
was even
lived
bad. It's just
I
like,
lived in
oh,
China also. Like I lived in China
yeah,
for a year, almost a year, and I could feel that feeling. It's so seeing that
yeah.
massive production sometimes make you impressed, but at the same time
It's
you need to be conscious.
Yeah, yeah, and it was kind of scary, but it was normal. So I didn't think about the damage. I was just like, oh, okay, maybe it goes to get filtered somewhere. but you just don't know. And then I just kept doing my work. And now
Yeah.
obviously we understand like how harmful that was.
Yes, exactly.
So this slide, just going back the one slide with the mission, this is something that I find so important. So I just wanted to start here is that whatever product you're making, you start with a purpose. What is the purpose of making that product? If it's just for fun or, you don't really have a purpose for that product, then is it really necessary? So think about the purpose of that product that you're creating. And whether you're a big brand, small brand, independent designer, you have that vision and mission and your values in place, and that will guide all your decisions along the design process. It becomes like a filter that you can ask yourself every step, like, okay, is this going towards the purpose of the product and providing value? And so I just wanted to kind of point that out because it helps guide me if I'm working on a new product, to think about those things. And I'm not just making a cute sweater. I'm making something that is to fill a need. This is the
Okay.
next slide is the United Nations SDG goals. So that's the
Yeah.
Sustainable Development Goals. So say you have a small business or you want a small business and you don't really know how to do everything sustainably or you just can't afford to. I find this helpful. There's 17 different goals. So if you pick one or maybe two that are important to you, that resonate with you, you focus on that. Say it's clean water and sanitation. If that becomes kind of your value and your mission for your brand, you can just keep working towards that. You don't have to tackle everything, and it's hard to implement every single sustainable method. So pick one or two that resonate with you, and that can kind of be your guide to what you want to achieve.
What do you think for an NGO like us? Because when I see the goals diagram, we have at least 5 here.
Yeah,
Like we
that's
have.
so
Is it
it's
too
a
much? You think?
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I guess it would depend on how big your group is. Could you break down your group and your of people and have, 5 people focus on zero hunger and 5 focus on clean water? Maybe you could approach it like that. But then, of course, you all have to be aligned and work together. But yeah, if you take on too much, then it's, you're going to be kind of thin, and you won't be able to do
Mm-hmm.
anything well. So yeah, maybe
Spreading yourself to twin.
it
Okay.
just depends on the capacity, I guess, that you have to work
We
with.
push the capacity.
Yeah.
We try to push it all the time.
Yeah, I do that all the time. It's like you just want to do so many things. And so
Yeah.
this was just a cute slide. Once you know where you're going, you know what your goals are, your values are, your purpose, then you have a roadmap to where you're headed. If you don't, you might zigzag all over the place and you might get lost. And so this was just kind of a fun slide to really demonstrate that, have that vision in mind, and then you can keep steering that direction. So sustainable fashion design strategies. 3 things I want to cover today is design-led strategy, embedding circularity from concept to creation, and AI's role in the circular evolution of fashion.
All starts with design. So I will just point whatever we do is like I'm an engineer very out of the fashion industry actually. But whatever we try to make it circular more, it should start from the beginning, right? Design or planning phases are always more important for that.
Exactly. Yeah, and even if you're working in a big corporation or you have a business with several employees, your boss might tell you need this many styles or that, but the product still starts with you. It starts with the designer. So looking at the process from a design-led strategy is becoming more and more important because as a designer, you're going to have the ability to influence, the decisions that are made along the way and trying to get the sustainability choices in your process. So what does design-led strategy mean? It's building a foundation, going back to your values and your core, your mission, building upon that. If your mission and main focus is to reuse, repair, upcycle, then that becomes your strategy for all of your product development. So in recent years, there's been a big shift to design-led strategies, and it's where design principles are integrated into the foundation of your strategy. That means design is about making products look good, shaping the entire consumer experience from the initial idea to the post-purchase support. Like, what do they do at the end of life for that garment? And with the foundation in place of your mission, values, and purpose, you can use that as a guide. It's, as a designer, you have the power to shape more with this type of strategy. There's human-centered design, which you're thinking about the end user. Great design begins with understanding who you're designing for and what the purpose of that garment is. It's using smart problem solving, streamlining the design process, using AI to reduce iterations. If you are in fashion at all, you may know that you design a garment, you make a pattern, you sew a sample, you do a fitting. It might take 4 fits to get it fit the way you want. And every garment, every sample is hundreds of dollars. It's fabric, it's shipping, it's paying a fit model, it's paying staff. So it might take 3 months to get a garment fit in the old traditional way. So using AI, now you can get down to maybe 1 or 2 samples to eliminate all of that time and cost and effort. So smart problem solving is another way you can streamline the design and development process with AI tools. Cross-functional collaborations, meaning you're working with maybe the fabric supplier, the tech team, and there's tools now that just simplify, speed up, and make everything more efficient. And then there's also data-driven decision making. So there's a lot of AI tools out there that you can get consumer insights, you can get sales data, you can get trend analytics so that you can make better decisions and avoid something like going to mass production with thousands of garments that you don't need. Why this matters to you is, as a designer, embracing a design-led strategy puts you in a stronger position to push for sustainability. And by leading with design thinking, you're not just creating beautiful products. Like I said before, you're influencing the entire design process. So you may have a big management team at your company, but you have a voice. I think as designers, we have the responsibility to really point out to the rest of the team or your big boss or whoever that these are tools that really can just improve efficiencies, save time, save money. Like, it's all beneficial. So why wouldn't you do it that way? So the second key principle is embedding that circularity and using AI from concept to creation. And I wanted to point out that sustainability encompasses environmental, economic, and social impact. So you can kind of think of those 3 big effects, that sustainability will influence and affect them in a positive way. So you're not just saving money for your company and saving time and doing product faster. You're affecting the economy of maybe people that are making the product, the social impact as well. It's all the people involved. It improves all of those things. So another, implementing AI tools to improve all that is just overall a positive effect. If you think of the design process, and this could be for any product, not just fashion, but looking at it from a closed loop system. So even before you start, you have to consider the end of life of that product. And that's going to guide you in how you choose your materials, maybe. If you're picking a poly spandex fabric from the beginning, how are you going to end the life of that product without the damage? So you've got to consider all of the phases to the very end, because you may not choose that poly lycra blend because you can't figure out how to dispose of it. So starting with sustainable design-led strategies, as we just talked about. Phase 2 is the entire design and development process. So there's a million steps in there that a designer has to take. So just considering AI and sustainable methods for each of those. Maybe you can't do all of them because it's just costly or you're too small or whatever. But if you can even just hit a couple of those, you're going in the right direction. Part of the process is kickoff and range planning, your inventory, how many styles, how often are you going to ship product, and using AI to help you figure that out. Product development is when you start working with the pattern maker, with a factory partner, making samples. And then going to market, how are you going to sell on e-com? Are you going to made to order? Just considering all those things, because you can implement processes and sustainable methods throughout the entire thing. And then you have a closed looped system, which is really what the goal is.
Exactly. Actually, one thing I realized in Europe when I first went to like Poland, I guess, I realized the second-hand market for the textile, for the fashion industry. Like in Turkey, we didn't have that much
Oh,
actually. I don't know why. Maybe it's about consumer behavior.
okay.
But
Like a secondhand store of clothing you don't
yes,
have?
exactly.
Yeah. Do you
In
now? Is it?
Turkey,
Yeah.
no. It's
Hmm.
mostly by municipalities or like for government. It's just like for the just sharing for the goods or like for I don't know. It's always hard to understand the systematic part of this in here a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's so popular here with young kids, and they call it thrifting. They're going because we call it thrift
Thrifting.
shopping. Yeah, and they love it. My daughter, who's 22, will go to the thrift stores and she'll dig for a designer skirt or a cute boy's jacket, and it's a third of the price, or it might be like $10 instead of 50. So that's kind of a popular thing here, which is good. But a lot of
Vintage.
the
One of my friends from also one of the project we met in youth exchanges in Poland. Also, that exchange actually inspired him to open a vintage store in Spain in Malaga, and he has now like 100K of followers on Instagram, and he
wow,
was doing a good business. But
that's
he got
excellent.
the idea from there.
Yeah.
I remember Sergio. We still in touch. Hopefully, like we are
Maybe
already.
maybe you should
Yeah.
do that in Istanbul.
There are also some vintage stores, but
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. A lot of business. So these are some ideas that are ways you can kind of implement sustainability. So I just wanted to kind of call out some of the big key ideas. And the first one is zero waste pattern making, which is becoming quite common and easy with AI because it's all done computerized. Multifunctional garments, which is where a garment can be worn in multiple ways or it's for multiple purposes. So that just, it gives the item more value, more meaning, more use. So you keep it longer, you use it more. There's, of course, textile and material innovation, including upcycling and recycling, and then designing for longevity. And I put question mark there because maybe you don't want the garment to last forever. Maybe it breaks down and then you plant it and then they'll buy a new one, but you're putting it back into the soil. So that's a concept. And then, of course, using AI technology for streamlining your process. So zero waste pattern making. The technique just challenges the old way, which is like the red box where you have all of that red is excess fabric that would just go onto the floor and it would go into the trash. An example is SXD, which is a company started by a female founder. She's was a designer and she wanted to incorporate zero waste design, and now she has this whole platform called SXD. And the image on the lower left is part of her program where you put your design in and it calculates through AI and it gives you all the cutting um, shapes for your garment with zero waste.
with the optimized
Optimized
size.
usage. Yeah, I'm sure in some instances you're still going to have some really small scraps. But you can see on where you're pointing right now, like the only
Hmm.
scrap would be where the armhole thing is on the top and bottom. Like that's the armhole. And so you can see it's drastically reduced. So this is just some modular multifunctional clothing examples. And if you click on the middle one, you'll see a video of this brand. So this is a jacket that it's got multiple layers. You can mix and match it, put sleeves on, take sleeves off. So I thought that was a really fun video just to demonstrate. And I've even seen there was one gal who created sleeping bags for homeless people, and it turned into a jacket so that if they were moving around, they just could, I don't know how it worked, but they could just use sleeves and take their
Mhm.
sleeping bag with them. So things like that could be a really good business idea or a way to go about doing something different, something with value and less longer life. You know, they're going to use it for multiple ways. So a good
Actually, I
sustainable.
see one jacket last time was also like you could also take it as a backpack. Last time
Yep.
I see with
Yeah.
my brother,
Yeah.
I was shocked because I had a very big jacket that I couldn't put anywhere while shopping on a shopping mall, and I see my brother is putting a backpack and he didn't have it, and he said it was a jacket. I
Ah,
think I don't want to like maybe it was Discovery or I don't remember
yeah,
exactly
that's a
which
great
one.
idea. Yeah, things like that just, you know,
Hmm.
it gives you a unique selling point and it's, you know, more sustainable because you're using it for multi-purpose. And so it's a good design thinking idea if you're, you know, if you want to start a new business and you have an idea like that. So, textile and material innovation. So, the fashion industry is experiencing quite a shift towards innovation in fabric. So, it's always changing, it's always exciting. Every fabric show I go to, there's something new. There's bio-based, lab-grown materials such as silk, wool, leather being made from mushrooms. And then, of course, you have your natural fibers like hemp, linen, and tencel. And those are becoming more important and more popular that people want to use. Polyesters, there's a lot going on with recycling with that, recycled water bottles, turning it into fabric, fishing nets, all of that textile waste reused and regenerated into fabric that can be reused. And then there's plant-based innovations. You know, pineapple is now it's Pinatex is the name of the fabric. Um, Cork, that's a picture of cork, which comes from the tree. They're turning that into fiber, which becomes fabric. Bananas, I even heard apple skins, apple juice, you know, so there's
Mhm.
all kinds of really cool things happening within materials and then of course there's also like the smart textiles, which could be
Hmm.
synthetic, but and that's where I guess the one on the bottom
Yeah.
is materials that embed sensors, can be heated, can watch your heart rate, you know, all of those kind of techie fun
Heated jackets
things.
with some small batteries. I know there are like some small jackets, like some jackets with the small batteries that they put and it's just heating.
Yeah, yeah,
I tried once that.
yeah, I saw for skiers, there was a vest that fits pretty
Ah,
close. Just a vest, no sleeves or anything, but it's just on your torso and it's to heat, it heats up and you wear it under your ski jacket and it just keeps you warm. I'm
very
curious
very
about
nice
that though.
actually. You know,
Yeah, what I'm curious is the materials used for those are most likely a
synthetic.
synthetic or yeah, so hopefully they're really long life and hopefully maybe there's a how do you dispose of it if it breaks, if it doesn't work anymore, what do you do with it? So considering the things we talked about, this materials and innovation, so I've got a couple videos on this one, the mushroom one, there's a quick
Okay.
video. Yeah, maybe it's
Stella
eh,
McCartney is the first fashion
yeah,
industry.
so cool.
My
And
God.
this was actually a few years ago. This is pre-COVID, I believe, was this
Oh,
project she did. So there's some amazing things happening. Like this is all from mushrooms. And you know, mushrooms grow like crazy. So it's not like the and of course you're not using chemicals or anything. You're just they grow naturally and then they transform it into this. So completely chemical
amazing.
free and has the properties of leather. And the one in the middle was a designer project. I think the gal was out of England, and she did the entire collection out of mycelium leather.
Oh,
So it was the world's first collection completely made out of leather, and the items are gorgeous, absolutely stunning. So, and then the next one is a smart textile example. Isn't that cool? So I think that's it. So that one, I'm pretty sure was
mm.
3D printed. So
Ah,
3D
so
printing is another idea. I didn't mention it in this in my slides here, but 3D printing is another way that's happening to just you make a t-shirt to fit exactly. There's no waste, you know, so that's something else that's I wonder if someday all our clothes will just be custom made, 3D printed, made to order, and there'll be absolutely no waste, and you'll only wear what you need, and you just print it out and, and you're good to
Yeah,
go.
possible.
So we'll see. Who knows?
Who knows?
And then designing for longevity or regenerative. So the example on the left is called Wear Kent, and it's 100% organic cotton underwear. And after you're done with it, you literally plant it in the ground and it degrades and it fertilizes the soil. So you're not throwing it in the trash. You're not, donating it. It's not causing polluted, soil and landfill. You just put it in your back, garden, and and it breaks down. And the other one is Driftless Goods, which is she's using all wool that is from here in the United States, and wool is so strong, and so those are long life items. So that should last you. It's like a wool sweater that your grandma knit for you. It should it lasts for generations. It also can be returned to the soil, and it provides nutrients and all that. So both those were just examples to show kind of how you can do something like that within your products. Wool is such a strong fiber. So wool
Oh,
lasts forever. You might
wow.
get like a hole in your sweater, from the
Hmm.
knit, like, but then you can patch
Oh,
it
yes.
up. And wool is just like one of the strongest, longest lasting fibers to use. So the idea for driftless goods is that you'll have that garment. And so this jacket actually, this is genderless. So
Hmm.
it's for men, women, whoever, and I think it was also reversible. So there's, you know,
The
she's
other
not
side,
making
right?
yeah, she's not making multiple size, a men's version, a women's version, adding to her inventory. She's keeping it very simple, fitting a lot of body shapes, a lot of genders. So it's less product and more usable to anyone, really. So
It's the mix of innovation and fashion, actually. Like
yeah.
when we say the fashion sounds very nice, like fashionista, fashion could never be bad in the when you hear at least.
Yeah, yep. I'm trying to use the word apparel because anytime you say fashion, I'm like I think of the runway, or I think of a big fat like Dior,
Mm.
or Louis Vuitton. Like you think of big fashion houses and glamour, but apparel it's what we wear every day, and so it has a different
Just
image in your mind, right? It's kind of
exactly.
AI, obviously, there's several ways you can do it. And I was doing some research for this presentation. There is so many options out there, and I personally haven't tried all of these. But there is probably an AI program for every step that you're working on in some manner. There's so many companies out there. So some of the key roles of fashion, AI in fashion or apparel, can we call it apparel? So I talked earlier about human-centered design, and that's where you're using data from AI to understand your consumer, their behavior, the products they really need. So by getting those reports and that data, you're not overproducing, or you're not making a color that no one's going to buy. You're going to have all that information, so you're going to save all that time and money. Smart problem solving. For the design portion, designers can now do everything 3D, virtually on avatars. You can visualize a fabric, how it drapes. You can visualize a print on a 3D figure, saving the designer a lot of time and efficiencies as well. Cross-functional collaboration, talking about sourcing and material choices, and then data-driven decision making, I kind of mentioned before, where it just helps fashion brands forecast on demand, looking at inventory, and then minimizing waste and maximizing profitability, of course. So here again are just some ways AI can help the process: is design software, textile and garment production, inventory management, getting consumer insights, which also includes trends. There's like much more advancement in AI for trends. It's quicker, it's more fine-tuned, so you can be more specific with a trend that you want to include. And then even in selling, like the middle picture on the bottom, it's a consumer going to an app. They're maybe putting in some body measurements, and then the tool is going to tell them exactly what size they need, exactly what it will look like on them. They can have virtual try on. And then the last one on the lower right is there's also AI for repairing, sorting textile, recycling, traceability, all of those things. There's AI for, there is a lot of options for sure. Viscom.ai is for designers. You can put in, like, I don't even really know how to use it. I was just playing. And so you can put in a sketch.
Just like
You
me.
can, yep, you can upload an actual photo. Like if you took a screenshot of a dress, you can upload that into this program and then it will render, it'll generate for you the
Oh,
item. So it generated these cars and then you can color it. You can tell it, it's sort of like Chat GPT, if you're familiar with that. You can say, make it a two passenger car and it'll generate and it'll switch it to two passengers. And then you could say, make it shiny silver and it will color it shiny silver. So you can literally just kind of sit there and play and it does all of the work for you. So it's a really fun. So that jacket, just briefly in the middle, I prompted it. I said, create for me a long, puffy winter jacket that has a hooded collar, knee length or whatever. And it created that for me within, 40 seconds, 30 seconds. So
amazing.
I could just prompt it to design for me and then I can say, change it to black, change it to white. And it takes a few seconds and it'll rework it. And then there you go. You're done. And then this is just a page about textile specifically. There's a company called Alchemy. Again, I haven't ever personally used this. I just did some research and this seemed to be one that was kind of leading the way. They're doing waterless dyeing. So it's 85% reduction in energy use. There's zero wastewater. It says claiming 50% cost savings. It does digital manufacturing. So this company is working to transform textile production and use clean tech solutions. Just, cost effective, it's sustainable, it's more efficiency. And why AI matters for you. Talked about it, we've talked about it. You're reducing waste and excess production. You're saving time and development costs. You're improving accuracy and decision making. And you're creating a truly sustainable business model. And then I wanted to say too, AI isn't going to replace the designer. I hope. I don't think so. But it's still going to take that human touch. So it's rather than replacing you, it should empower you. I think if designers really start embracing this now, because if you're thinking of a design career or you want to be a designer, if you're not learning the tech now, I think we're going to get left behind. So even for myself, I'm an old school designer. I did everything by hand. It's like I'm trying to learn this now so that I can stay on top of, my own knowledge and my own use. What tools do I want to use in my work? It's a lot to learn. It's a lot to stay on top of. And I know it sounds kind of big and scary, but I think even picking one or two tools can at least get you kind of going in the right direction and getting a little comfortable with using tools for your design work. So there we go. Sustainable fashion design strategies to achieve your circular design. It's start with your design-led strategy, embedding your circularity in your processes, and harnessing AI to achieve sustainable design. A lot of information in a short amount of time, but
It was amazing to have you.
yeah,
thank you very much.
yes,
Keep in
you
touch.
too. Thank you everyone for your time and attending, and I hope it brought you some inspiration and some value and ideas for you. So thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
see you.